Hello and welcome. My name is Joe, and today's video is going to be my November wrap-up. We are right here at the edge of the year. So this wrap-up is going to be a little bit different in structure to my previous month's wrap-ups because I started doing weekly wrap-ups, and I really like that format. It gives me the ability to talk to you guys pretty much immediately around the time that I finish these books, because a lot of the times I don't remember my thoughts, okay? I don't remember my thoughts. That's why I take notes, and even sometimes the notes don't help either. Anyway, so in this wrap-up, I'm still going to be mentioning the books that I read. I'll give you my bare bones thoughts about them. I have a ranking for them as well, and if you're interested in my more in-depth thoughts on any of the books that I mentioned in this video, I will have them all listed down below with a link to the video that I talk about them the most in, whether that's a weekly update or a vlog. So if you want my in-depth thoughts, they're there for your viewing pleasure. Okay, so if you're not going to be giving us 100% of your thoughts on the books that you read, Joe, what are you going to be telling us? Well, I have stats for my reading as well as my channel. I have movies and TV shows that I watched this month, and it's going to be fun. We're going to have a fun new time with this new format. So starting off with movies and TV shows that I watched in the month of November. I watched the new adaptation of Goosebumps on Disney Plus, and I surprisingly really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be really cheesy because I liked the Goosebumps show when I was a kid. The scariest part about that show for me was the theme song, and I would make my mother skip over the theme song every single time we watched one of those videos, so I thought it was going to be cheesy because the show is cheesy, right? But it was surprisingly really good, and it wasn't episodic like the old show used to be. It was kind of like we had this overarching plot with all of the little stories that would previously have their own episode littered into it, following different characters. It was really good. Surprisingly scary at times and really thoroughly enjoyable. So if you like the Goosebumps books as a kid or the Goosebumps show as a kid, I would really recommend that you go and watch it. If you weren't a fan of Goosebumps, I still think that you would enjoy it because a lot of those stories are widely known, even if you weren't a fan of the genre, like The Talking Dummy and different things like that. I also discovered Dateline in the month of November, which is a surprise because I am a true crime lover. So Dateline is one of those standard true crime shows that everybody knows about. I had just never watched it before, but I am watching it now and I'm really enjoying it. Also watching a lot of Forensic Files. Again, I am a really big fan of true crime. And I also watched a movie called We Need to Do Something, which was really good. I can't remember what it's on because we have 45 million streaming services, but it was on one of them. In the movie, we're following this family who, during a natural disaster, gets trapped in the bathroom and shit hits the fan. It's a really psychological movie. It's not really body horror-esque or horror-esque. It's kind of like this unknown force, this unknown enemy is coming after this family and they're trapped in this bathroom together and they don't really get along that well. So it's very psychological, but it was really good. I really enjoyed it and I definitely would recommend it if you like horror, thriller types of movies. So how about some channel updates? So the most significant thing that happened on the channel this month was that I kind of took a step back from those sit-down videos with the lights and the camera, and I really took the pressure off of myself to be making this like A1 content, and I really feel like it's helped me a lot be able to feel more comfortable in front of the camera, feel more comfortable with the videos that I'm posting. I'm a lot happier with the content that I'm making now. I do have to say that I'm slowly making my way back to the library because it's getting to the point where it's too cold to sit outside. So that's going to be unfortunate. Probably sometime within the next week or so, I will be back in the library. I did buy a Christmas tree for my library to sit in like the little corner of my corner bookshelves, and I'm really excited about that. I'm planning on doing a video where I decorate my Christmas tree, and I also do the TMI tag, which if you don't know what that is, it was a tag that was popular years and years ago, but it's pretty much 50 questions. Some of them are bookish related, most of them are just slightly invasive, but I think it would be a really fun time to, number one, decorate my Christmas tree and also have a video where you guys can get to know me a little bit better. Hopefully not too well. I haven't really looked at the questions yet. So if you're interested in getting to know me a little bit more and watching me probably poorly decorate a Christmas tree, that video will be going up at some point in the next few weeks. The Christmas tree has not been delivered yet, so I cannot tell you an exact date. I also obviously started doing weekly wrap-ups and I really enjoy them. I'm really having a lot of fun doing these weekly wrap-ups because I feel like it's a lot more conversational and it goes really well with the content that I've been making for the past month. Less serious, more laid-back content that I've really been enjoying, and it also gives me a chance to talk about the books that I've read closer to the time that I actually finish them, so I'm not forgetting details and I can go into a little bit more depth with my thoughts and be able to talk a little bit more clearly about what I'm thinking without having to constantly rely on my notes, which even though they're extensive, sometimes they're not enough. So my notes are basically just there so that I can remember the details of the books that I read, but not necessarily what I was feeling in the moment. And it also gives me the chance to update you in the middle of a book. Like, am I liking this book? Am I hating this book? What's going going on and how does my opinion change after I finish the book. I just think it's a very interesting way to do things. I enjoy watching weekly wrap-ups and I've really been enjoying making them, so I hope you enjoy them as well. So more stat type information about the channel. I posted 10 videos in the month of November, and my most popular video, no surprise there, was my Iron Flame reading vlog. That video popped off like no video ever has on my channel, and it is now my #1 most viewed video, which is insane. I had so much fun making that video. One of my favorite parts of making that video was actually making the thumbnail. I don't know if any other creators have this opinion, but making the thumbnail is one of my favorite parts of making a video. I just love sitting down and being creative and trying to find little elements of the things that I'm talking about to add to the thumbnail. I just think it's so much fun. And because that video did so well, I had 60 new subscribers in the month of November, which is so awesome. So at this point, we are now at 1363 subscribers, which is so exciting. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you stick around. If you don't, I hope you have a fantastic life and I will see you never again. In terms of views, we had 3.5 thousand views. The majority of those views were on that Iron Flame reading vlog, which again, I appreciate the love and support that I'm getting over there. I was really afraid to post it because Iron Flame was one of my most anticipated books, and Fourth Wing is such a wholly beloved book. So I was really nervous to post it, but everyone has been super kind and super amazing and super supportive over there. So I really appreciate that. In terms of watch hours, we've had 340 watch hours this month, which is obviously up because of that Iron Flame video. That Iron Flame video is still in the algorithm, and it's still climbing in views and likes and comments. And again, I really appreciate the support that I got over there because I was nervous. Somebody was gonna eat my head off, but everybody seems to agree with me. Maybe I've just drawn the haters in my direction. That's fine. We can be haters together. So now that we've gone over all of those life and channel stats and updates, let's talk about some reading stats. So in the month of November, I read 8 things. Those 8 things consisted of 6 novels and 2 volumes of manga. The total page count was 3,198, which amounts to around 106 pages per day. My goal is usually to hit 100 pages per day, but this is more on the low end of reading for me. I think that it had a lot to do with the fact that I spent a week reading Iron Flame, and it put me into a little bit of a slump that I'm still trying to get out of. I think we're on the back end of it, so I think things are looking up from here. Another stat that I've been wanting to look at is like, am I prioritizing standalones over series or series over standalones? So within that vein, I read 3 standalones in the month of November, and I read 5 books that were a part of a series. So I am vastly preferring series over standalones, which does not surprise me in the slightest. I am a series sucker. And another thing that I want to prioritize in 2024 is rereading when I feel like it. In the month of November, I did not have any rereads, but I did have one book that was a previous DNF. I DNF'd it in, I think, January or something of 2018, 2019. It's been years, but I picked it back up and I finished it and I actually enjoyed it. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. In terms of format, I read 7 of these books physically, which is, again, probably another reason why the page count was so low, because ebooks and audiobooks I can read so much faster, but physical reading I tend to take a lot more notes in the margins, so I'm just doing a lot of other things other than actually, consuming the words into my brain, and I read one of them digitally. Another stat that I'm wanting to look at in 2024 is, am I reading more big books or more small books? And so only 2 of the books that I read this month were over 500 pages, and 6 were under 500 pages, which does not surprise me in the slightest because you can only read so many big books in one month, okay? In terms of genres, I read 2 horror/thriller books, which is really surprising for me, and it's a new addition to my reading tastes, is that I've really been enjoying some horror books in the latter half of this year. I read 4 fantasy books, which is not surprising whatsoever. Fantasy is usually the genre that I read the most of. I also read 1 contemporary romance this month, which was super exciting because I haven't read an actual legit romance book since July, and I felt like I was getting a little bit lost in the sauce with romance. And the last genre that I read in this month was historical fiction, which is fun, super fun. And the only reason I read that one is because it was a manga. In terms of star ratings, we have 1 2.5 star read, 2 3-star reads, 2 3.5 star reads, 1 4-star read, 1 4.5 star read, and 1 5-star read. All over the place in terms of star ratings, but the average rating this month was a 3.625. That 1 2.5 star read really knocked my average down. So let's talk about my November TBR. I had 7 books on my November TBR. Did I complete them? Partially. I read 5 of the 7 books on my November TBR, which I don't think is too shabby. I really don't think it's too shabby. I think that's pretty good considering I only read 8 things things in the month of November. So without further ado, let's get into my ranking of the books that I read in November. So at the bare bottom, the bare bitch bottom, we have this bitch, Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I did not like this book at all. The characters were really flat. Violet and Xaden both went through a character assassination that I just did not enjoy. I felt like there were several plot points that were really petty and ridiculous. Fourth Wing was a really fun time for me. It felt very nostalgic, and I felt like Rebecca Yarros wrote it that way intentionally. I don't mind a good trope. I love a good trope, and I really liked Fourth Wing. This one took every bad trope from the YA genre and plopped it in here. The War College was really well explained, and I really liked that kind of isolated world. But as we got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, we just kept getting bigger without explaining what we were doing and where we were going along the way. I just didn't like it. I didn't love it. We were not live, laugh, loving. Next, we have TikTok by Dean Koontz. This was not a bad book. This was not a bad book by any means, but it was not entirely what I wanted. It's about this guy named Tommy who finds this creepy rag doll on his front porch one day, and he takes it inside. The creepy rag doll comes to life and starts chasing him around, intent on killing him. It's kind of like a freaky Coraline situation, right? But more than the creepy rag doll, we had Tommy really struggling with his identity. So the creepy rag doll, instead of being just this horrifying unknown creature, became sort of like a metaphor for his mother's love, which is all well and good. It's all well and beautiful, but it's not what I wanted. Next up is Fortunately the Milk. This is a middle grade. I mean, it's very, very low middle grade. So we have these two children who are left with their dad, and their dad forgets the milk one day. He goes out and buys the milk, but then he takes too long to get it, comes back with a fantastical story about why he took so long getting the milk, and this fantastical story includes aliens, pirates, a stegosaurus professor flying in a hot air balloon. It's a lot of fun. It's very whimsical and funny. It's a lot lighter than some of Neil Gaiman's other books that I've read. If you're wanting something quick and easy, or if you have a kid that really wants something fantastical and fun, I would definitely recommend this book, just to give you an idea of how many words per page. Next, and most recently, I read volume 14 of One Piece. I finally fucking finished that volume. It took me for fucking ever, but I finished it, and I'm not crazy about it. The thing that we're mainly focusing on in the story right now is this group of people called the Baroque Works, and I just really don't like them. I can't keep their names straight. I like their motivations. I like the idea of them. I just don't like the execution of them. I think it's kind of ridiculous. I do really like where we're at. We're on like this island of giants. I really like the island of giants, but I'm not crazy about the Baroque Works. Next is Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. This is kind of on the same vein as TikTok is for me. It's about this guy named Joe, what's your name? Judas Coin. His name's Judas Coin. He is like this retired old rocker dude who is really into like weird things, occult things. And so when he gets the opportunity to buy a haunted suit online, he jumps at the chance. He buys this fucking suit and he brings it into his house, which is a great idea. So unfortunately, this suit is actually haunted by the stepfather of his ex-girlfriend, who unfortunately committed suicide, and her stepfather blames him for her death. So he begins to chase Judas around, trying to kill him, trying to get him to kill himself. It's very similar to TikTok in the sense that Judas is again struggling with an identity issue. His father was very abusive when he was young, and so he escaped his family farm in Louisiana to become this rock star. And so now that he's gotten to the same age of his father, and his father is now dying, he's having to grapple with the idea that maybe he is becoming his father because Jude's an asshole. This was the book that I had previously DNF'd, and I DNF'd it because Jude was an asshole. But I did finish it, and I did like it. Next is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This one I fucking love. This was my contemporary romance of the month. In this, we're following Yasmin and Josiah. They were previously married. They have 2 children together. When they face a really hard loss in their life, Yasmin goes into a really deep depression, which eventually leads to divorce. They got divorced, and this is how they find their way back together and fall back in love with each other. Oh my god, it was so delicious. Kennedy Ryan's characters are something else, okay? From the 2 that I've read, they've both been really slow burn. They've both dealt with some more difficult topics. Their relationship isn't easy. They have to consciously make the choice to fight for each other and to choose each other, and I really, really like that. Each of the children dealt with a divorce in their own separate ways, and we get to see kind of like the reconciling of a family. My number 2 book of the month was Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. This was fantastic. There's only one real area that I was a little bit iffy about, but I also think it's a great representation of what she was trying to represent, and what I'm talking about is the romantic development between Fitz and another character, and I felt like it was a really good representation of first love and how encompassing it can be, and also the bad decisions that you will make because of said first love, and also the emotional immaturity of teenagers. I really liked it. I'll talk about this one a little bit more again in this upcoming week's weekly wrap up, so again, I'll have that linked down below when that is posted. The first 70% of this book was again really slice of life like Assassin's Apprentice was, but the last 30%, I'm telling you, something big is happening in this world that we have not been introduced to yet, and I'm so fucking excited to get into it. If you can tell, this is my TBR of shame. if you haven't watched my December TBR, spoilers, Assassin's Quest is absent because I have started reading it. I'm only like 20 pages in, so don't get your panties in a twist. And my favorite book of the month was Vinland Saga Book 5. I fucking loved this one. This is my favorite volume in Vinland Saga to date. Mr. B! No, sir! He is so pissed that I'm giving something else my attention. Anyway, this is my favorite volume of Vinland Saga to date. I absolutely love this one. I love that we got to explore more of Thorfinn as he's going through this identity crisis. Again, an identity crisis, but because of some of the events that happened at the end of book 4, he's having to find something else that gives him purpose in his life, and he's getting to finally choose what that is because he's no longer surrounded by the violence that has been around him his entire life. He finally gets the choice to decide who he wants to be, what kind of man he wants to be. Does he want to make different decisions for his future than he did for his past, opening himself up to friendships and relationships? And I fucking loved it. I teared up multiple times. This was a 5 out of 5 star read. It's my favorite of the series so far, and I absolutely loved it. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of November. Let me know down below if you like this new style of wrap-ups. Let me know if there's anything else that you would like for me to include. I would love to hear your input. If you hate it, you can also let me know that too down below. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to join the NotSoAverageJo army. We're learning how to farm wheat from manga. Doesn't it sound like something you want to join? If not, then we're learning how to become an assassin. We're learning about plants and shit. What can kill a man? I don't know, but we're learning it. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you next time.